questions over the years I get with regarding, can I turn that without a chuck? Can I turn this without a chuck? So what I'm going to do is do a mini series covering turning a goblet, a lidded box, and the third one will be a bowl without using a chuck. A chuck makes life a lot easier, but by no means is it an essential piece of kit to turn the majority of pieces that you want to turn. What I'll be doing is using a faceplate. This is a 4-inch one, similar to the ones that would come with your lathe standard. And what we're going to be doing is to be screwing a wood block to that, and that will form the basis of the faceplate, if you like, because I like to use hot melt glue. As a lot of you already know, I've got a lot of faith in hot melt glue, and I'll go through the techniques that I use. The goblet will be the easiest, I think. The second, the slightly more difficult will be the box. Not difficult, but a little more involved, a few more steps involved, and then finally the bowl. So I hope you find that of interest. An alternative method to using a faceplate and screwing a wooden block to that is to actually buy a spindle tap and to tap in the threads into a piece of wood that you can use basically as a faceplate. And the beauty of that is you just screw that straight onto your spindle, and don't forget to put a little hole there for a Tommy bar to get it off again, and then you can glue a sacrificial piece of wood to that. And as it gets down lower and lower, you can see I've already added a piece here. You just add more wood to it, and you can make it and stick more wood on with either wood glue or, in my case, hot glue, CA glue even. And then you can use that forever and a day. So that's another method. But we're going to go through the faceplate method, and hopefully you'll find that of interest. And I hope you don't get fed up with mentioning this all the time. Don't forget, in November, the Harrogate show. I'll be on the Simon Hope stand for the Friday, Saturday and Sunday, the full 3 days, demonstrating all his tools and bits of kit, and with Simon, of course. And then in May, Makers Central at the NEC, the 5th and 6th of May next year. I'll put links to these down below. There's a little way off for the Maker Central one, but that promises to be a huge success as well. And apparently, according to Nick, over 1,000 tickets have already been sold, and we've got something like 8 months to go yet. So that certainly is building up to be a really phenomenal event. Before I go to the lathe, I received another sticker from my good friend Bram, Bram the Wades Mill Woodturner. I'll put a link to Bram's channel down below. Thanks for that, Bram. That'll go on to the wall of infamy, not the wall of fame. Okay, so without further ado, we'll go across to the lathe and we'll turn a goblet on a faceplate. Is now securely attached. I'll put that on to the spindle and we'll turn it round. Okay, so now we've turned the blank and removed the faceplate now, and what we'll do is turn the spindle to round and we'll go to the next stage. Now the next operation is to get one end as flat and as square as you can, and then that will then fit into a recess that I'll make in the wooden block on the faceplate. So, with my verniers, I've taken the dimension of the end of the blank. Now, if you're not happy using this method, you can use a ruler. When you use this method, make sure that only the left-hand leg touches the wood, not the right-hand leg, otherwise it'll spin over. Okay, so the idea is to get both lines, to get the right-hand point to match the left-hand point, and you just move it over a bit, and there we go. So then take a pencil, and it is the innermost one there, and we'll make a recess, but make it slightly in, and then it'll be the same as when you're doing a box lid. Just take it out, fit it, take it out till it's a nice tight fit, and then we can glue it in. Okay, so the aim is now to get your hot glue as hot as it'll possibly get, and then we'll place the one end into the wooden block and bring up the tailstock to centre it. Just a little bit of pressure and let that glue dry, and as you see there, it's running nice and smooth, so that gets it nice and central. So just retract that a little bit. As I say, get your glue as hot as you possibly can and put a nice amount on the inside. I've got to be running a bead anyway, so place that in and then bring up the tailstock to centralize it. And okay, so I've given that about 5 minutes just to go off. Now what I like to do now is just to run a bead around the joint. That just gives that little bit of extra support, and as I've said many times before, if your glue is as hot as it'll get, you will break the wood before you break the join. On that, I promise you. The gun is this one here. I've had this for about 6 years. It's the Bosch PKP 180E. And it's done the job for me. The little craft ones aren't as good because I don't think they get the glue as hot. So when that goes an opaque colour, we know it's off, it's set, and we can carry on. Another important point to note is that there is a mark there which is just over the length of the screw. Now, to be on the safe side, I've made a mark there. Now what I'm going to do is to cut a little groove and mark it in red, so I know in future if I don't want to put a waste block onto this and I'm actually using this block, that I can't part off anything beyond that point because if I do, I run the danger of actually running into the screws, which is what I don't do. So rather on the side of caution, and just make a little groove like so, and just using a Sharpie, which may be over the top, but it won't hurt, just make a bit of a red mark there so that you know that this is the absolute maximum you can go back. I mean, I know it's a bit sort of health and safety, a bit safety policey, but it's surprising sometimes you don't. So that's there, and you know that you can't go back any further. See here now that that join is like opaque, and we can take away the tailstock, and we've got a very solid point here. And I would guarantee you, we've got glue on the inside, we've got glue around the rim, and we can work on that now as if it was in a chuck. So the same thing as I would do if it was in a chuck. You bring up the tailstock for a bit of support, just while you're doing the rough shaping on the outside, remembering you want to keep the mass there as long as possible for the hollowing. Okay, so now we've got the very basic shape of the bowl. I'll now hollow out just to show the integrity of the joint here on the glue block on the faceplate, and I won't bother finishing or sanding it. Obviously, it's just to give you the idea of how it can be done. So we've got to the point where we've hollowed out the bowl of the goblet. We'd sand up to whatever grit you want to sand up for, 600 whatever. Yorkshire grit, Hampshire sheen, finish off the inside exactly the same way as you would if it was in a chuck, and then I would normally bring up the tailstock with a tennis ball to give it a bit of support, just a little bit of pressure to support it as I'm working my way down the stem and finishing off the goblet. So this method of holding is as strong and secure and as reliable as a chuck. As I said at the beginning, it's not as easy as a chuck. Having said that, it is a very sound method. Well, I hope some of you found that helpful, and that ends the first in the series of No Chuck, No Problem, and I hope it gives you some ideas. There are various other things you could do. Instead of using hot glue, you could use ordinary wood glue and even CA glue. That's totally up to you, but I just have a lot of faith, and I like using hot melt glue. One thing to remember always is that the glue is as hot as possible and that your wood is as dry as possible as well. That's both the faceplate or the face block that you've screwed to your faceplate, and indeed the stock you're going to turn. You could just screw a blank to the faceplate, but for a goblet it's a bit of a waste of wood. Okay, well, thanks very much indeed for watching. The next instalment will be doing a box or turning a box by the same method, and I look forward to seeing you then. Thanks very much indeed for watching. As I say, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you very soon. Cheers now.